Why you keep choosing emotionally unavailable partners? You're not drawn to emotionally unavailable people by accident. No. Attraction actually is not a conscious choice. It's a memory looking for completion. In this video, I'm going to explain to you how this happened, even when you are not aware of it. And also, I'm going to tell you what is possible to do to break this cycle. So, stay until the end of the video so you can find out how to be free from this cycle and really learn how to love yourself and to choose wisely. Okay, remember, subscribe to my channel. That would be very helpful for me and for other people so they can find this video. How did this start? Remember when we said attraction is not a conscious choice. It's a memory looking for completion, resolution. The best way to explain this to you is by telling you a story. This is my own story, the story that inspired pretty much all my work as a counselor, therapist, coach, to really figure out my life. So this is my own story. When I was little, I have a younger sister. I was the oldest. My parents were separated, so we didn't see our dad very often. Maybe every other weekend, we used to see our dad and go out with him together with my sister. In those moments, it was clearly a competition between my sister and I to get my father's attention. I remember one day in particular, we were having lunch with my dad, my sister and I. And at some point, I don't know exactly what happened, but I felt weird. I felt like I was going to pass out. My dad noticed that and asked me, "Are you jealous?" Of course, I was like, no way. But my body was reacting to this emotional feeling that I had, that actually being jealous. It was painful, and I had, a physical reaction to it. So I remember not understanding what's going on, but I remember the feeling. And I remember my father making the interpretation that was jealousy. I found myself usually trying to get my parents' approval. This was absolutely, totally unconscious. I wasn't aware about what I was doing. So from the good girl that I was, I became the total opposite. I started getting the attention in school from my classmates and my teachers as the troublemaker. I always had an opinion. I was against the rules. I became the rebel myself. And, I grew up in Chile, where we have a dictatorship for 17 years. And I was a teenager and then a student when that happened. So I became an activist, taking risks. And I remember when I was maybe in my 20s, that I realized that part of my behavior and my preference at that time was not only because I have an opinion, I have a political, preference, or I have a sense of justice only, because I was so much interested in my mother and my father to know what I was doing. So then I realized that I was looking for their approval. Okay, so keep that in mind. Later on, when I started having relationships, I found myself many times being very emotionally attached to the one who was not totally sure about his feelings about me, the one who was not always available, sometimes because it was long distance, And I, like you, probably, I believed that something was wrong with me, that I was making poor choices. But I became so emotionally attached, I couldn't just leave a situation where I wasn't happy. And I found myself trying to get that person's approval, that person's love, no matter what. I have been in emotionally abusive relationships. I have been in many different kinds of relationships, like probably you did. And many times, this was like a gradual process of me becoming aware of this situation. Many times, I remember that my goal in a very unhappy relationship was, I want this man to fall in love with me, to love me the way I want to be loved. Instead of thinking this is not good for me, I should move on and try with maybe a different person. But I couldn't leave. So that's when I realized after a while that I wasn't really in love with that particular person. I was emotionally attached to a situation that was the repetition of the feelings that I had when I was growing up competing with my sister for my dad's love. Part of it was that. So, of course, it was a shocking discovery. It was so shocking to discover I've been wrong all this time. It's not me making that choice. It's my emotional body, my nervous system trying to resolve my need for my father's approval and attention, always going on in the background. And then it was, of course, it was very shocking, but I realized that I could break that pattern. I am just telling you this story, very briefly, but it took my whole life to get to the place where I am right now, explaining this to you and understanding and telling you that there is a way to break that pattern that makes us so unhappy and heartbroken, usually. And maybe, as me, maybe you has been in a sequence of unhappy relationships without being able to move on or go forward, with your life, because the attachment is so powerful, right? But there is a way. And what I discover also is that it's a lot of resistance every time you try to change, because probably part of you is aware that this is a situation that you have been yourself, you put yourself in situations like this many times, and that you have the power to control that. But when you really try to put this into practice, you realize it's so hard. And then the voices in your head telling you, why you bother? You will never do it. This is impossible. It's too much, right? And maybe you have been in therapy for years. Maybe you tried different methodologies and things work for a little while, and then you fall back into the old habit. The other thing that happens usually is in order to be accepted and loved, we believe that we need to please our parents. We need to make them happy. We need to take care of their needs. We need to become what they want us to be. So we totally ignore our own needs and wants. In my case, my father was a narcissist. I understand this today because I study and I work with, victims of domestic violence and emotional abuse for years. So I recognize my father was a narcissistic person. I remember when I tried to, express something that I was feeling the way, I was a teenager, struggling with life as everybody else. And my dad was close. He was the one who was more affectionate in my family, believe it or not. And I remember a phrase he used to say when I was trying to tell him about something that I was struggling with. He would say, "Oh, the terrible things that happened only to me." There was no empathy. It was no really care. It was no love. It was a total dismissal. So I got used to that. And instead of paying attention that that person was not taking care of me, was not interested in what I was feeling, it became the normal. And I got into relationships with people, similar behaviors, similar personalities, and always trying to please them, to become the one they wanted me to be. To realize and to recognize, because the process, it could be very painful. It's painful because first we see, maybe for the first time, how abandoned we were when we were growing up. And then the next realization is we are still abandoning ourselves in those situations because we are not taking care of our feelings. We are keeping our feelings like in a box because our whole goal is, I want this person to love me. I want this person to take care of me. Because we want the love, precisely the love from the person who doesn't love us the way we deserve. And I know this is hard to hear and painful to accept and to understand and to really recognize that we have been doing this to ourselves without realizing it. But there's a good part of this. It could be hard and painful, but there is a way to break the cycle. I know because I did it. I value my peace of mind over everything else. And I created this special program. It's a methodology that it takes care of every little detail, and it's very effective, and it's made with love, with compassion. It is actually designed for each person in particular because each one of us is different. We are a universe in ourselves. And this particular program that I created with a lot of love and compassion and care, it helps you to develop your own power, to help you to ground yourself in some truth, so you can be connected to your higher self, because the higher self always knows what is good for you. So you can have the strength to navigate through these, not very easy waters when we are in this journey for transformation. But I can guarantee that if you really are serious about breaking this painful cycle that always ends in heartbreak, you can trust that this is going to work. This is a very special program that you can find all the details on my website. The information is in the description below. You can just check that, and you can book a free call, like a Zoom call with me, so we can talk about your situation, what is going on in your life, and we can figure out what is best for you. Because my program is, can be adapted to every situation and every person and personality, belief system, preferences, because we are all different people coming from different stories. We may share a similar situation and experience growing up, but the way we try to resolve that may be a little bit different. And so it's important to consider the particularity of each situation and each person. So this is available for you. Check the link below in the description. Go to my website, get all the details, and book a call with me so we can talk about this and see if I would love to be able to help you. I know I share you my story, and I would like for you to share your story with me. Well, I hope you like this video. Share this with your friends or family if you want, and see you next time. Namaste.